Hey guys, welcome to a night of palace intrigue. It's time to turn off all the lights, get cozy under your blankets, and join me as we step into a world that is glamorous and brilliant, but also full of hidden dangers. Don't forget to pour yourself a glass of wine or a cup of hot tea, because this story will send shivers down your spine and leave you completely captivated. This isn't a love story, it's a survival guide, a secret manual for a man who climbed from the mud to the peak of power. You'll witness how a nobody uses his looks, intelligence, and even cruelty to buy loyalty, manipulate a king's heart, and turn a marriage into a military strategy. You'll find yourself in the midst of lavish parties, poisoning plots, and the profound loneliness of a royal favorite. Let me know in the comments where in the world you're listening from. And if you're ready for this journey, don't hesitate to leave your mark by hitting like, subscribing, and leaving a comment. Now, let's begin. The dust stings your eyes, a bitter, earthy grit kicked up by 1,000 pounding hooves. The air is thick with the cheers of the crowd, the clatter of steel, and the low, guttural roar of 100 men. But your focus isn't on the jousting tournament unfolding before you. Your eyes and the eyes of every ambitious man in this court are fixed on a single figure, King James I. He sits on his gilded throne, a sun god surveying his domain, his face a complex mosaic of boredom and expectation. The palace isn't just a stone fortress, it's a living, breathing monster, its heartbeat a rhythm of ambition, and its breath a whisper of jealousy. This is your moment. Forget the years you spent training with a sword. Forget the treatises on military strategy you memorized. Your sword is your frailty, and your strategy is a controlled collapse. Your heart pounds like a war drum in your chest, but you must remain calm. The fate of your entire lineage rests on what you are about to do. Do not win the tournament. That would be an act of utter foolishness. Winning nights are a dime a dozen, a soul lost in a sea of life, a petal falling in a courtly storm. That is the epic the king is waiting for. You must fail in a way that captures his imagination, a failure so exquisite it becomes your greatest victory. The quiet gasp of a king intrigued is worth more than 1,000 roaring accolades. You have been rehearsing this for weeks, not with a horse, mind you, but with a series of elegant, choreographed stumbles in your room. This is your moment to perform. You guide your horse towards a turn, a tricky spot where the ground is just a little uneven. With a practiced tug on the reins, you throw your body slightly off balance. It's a moment of pure theatricality. You fall, but you fall beautifully. Like a dying swan, you go down in a flourish of limbs and fabric, not with the brutish thud of a man defeated, but with the soft grace of a man surprised by fate. The pain is real, a sharp sting in your shoulder, but you must ignore it. This pain is your investment. It's a contract signed in blood and bruised skin, your golden ticket to a world you were never meant to enter. The crowd gasps, their cheers dying in their throats. The tournament is forgotten. All eyes are on you, a human sacrifice on the altar of the king's attention. You lie there for a moment, a tableau of tragic beauty. Do not, under any circumstances, rush to get up. Let the moment hang in the air like a perfectly struck note, a silent prayer. Let the dust settle on your fine clothes, on your carefully tousled hair. Let the sun, a golden spotlight, catch the delicate lines of your face, highlighting your youth and vulnerability. KingJames, an avid connoisseur of aesthetics, will be captivated. His gaze, once veiled in aristocratic indifference, now burns with intense, focused curiosity. He is not a monument of stone, but a complex oil painting with clumsy brushstrokes hidden beneath layers of gold. You are no longer a participant. You are the star of a one-man show, a drama with an audience of one. You have become the singular object of his gaze, a feat more impressive than any military conquest.
Men rush to your side, their faces a blur of concern and a desperate need to impress the king. When they ask if you are all right, your voice must be a whisper, a sound so faint, so fragile, it can only be heard by those who are truly listening, and most importantly, by the king himself. You might say, I am well, thank you, followed by a soft, I am so sorry to have disturbed His Majesty. This is a masterpiece of rhetorical humility. Your whispered apology, a private confession in a public space, will create an intimacy between you and the king, an invisible thread connecting your vulnerability to his magnanimity. While the crowd roars its concern, you are speaking a language of secrets, and only the king is fluent. This, you must understand, is the first and most critical lesson. You must grasp it with every fiber of your being. The king is not looking for a heroic warrior. He is looking for a human connection. He is tired of the stiff, formal flattery of seasoned politicians and the transparent machinations of courtly intrigue. When you fell, you gave him something authentic, a rare, naked soul in a world of artifice. Your weakness isn't a vulnerability. It's a weapon you can wield to capture his sympathy, to convince him that you are a genuine soul in a sea of vipers. He is not a king looking for a soldier. He is a man looking for a confidant. You are offering him not a service, but a connection. This is a lesson you must swallow into your very bones. You must ask yourself, do you truly believe that victory is the only path to glory? The king is not looking for a conqueror, but a companion. A staged fall is not your only option. Your path to favor can be far more subtle. You might, for example, accidentally drop a beautifully embroidered handkerchief or a small precious ring in a corridor where the king is known to walk. But this is not a random act. It is a carefully orchestrated piece of choreography. The item must fall in a place where it will be seen, but not so close as to seem obvious. It must be valuable, but not so extravagant that it seems like a bribe. The king is an intelligent man. He will recognize the value, and he will recognize the coincidence, but if your performance is perfect, he will choose to believe in the serendipity of the moment, the beautiful accident of your lives intersecting. He will not see a desperate man, but a man of refined taste whose path has, by some strange twist of fate, crossed his own. In the court of King James, a handsome face is a more powerful document than 100 petitions. He is weary of solemn, bearded men arguing over policy. He yearns for beauty and grace. Your face is your resume, and your charisma is your only policy. A smile, a fleeting glance that seems to touch his very soul. These are the arrows that can pierce deeper than 1,000 empty decrees. It's an unconventional form of power, to be sure, but in this court, it is the only form of power that truly matters. A warm smile can accomplish more than a royal decree.
In a court overflowing with hyper-masculine bravado, a beauty that is delicate and almost androgynous is your secret weapon. King James is not captivated by the rough, muscular figures of traditional courtiers. He is drawn to grace, to softness, to a more refined kind of man. You must learn to move with a certain fluidity, to laugh with a certain charm, and to speak with an understated refinement. This is a different kind of strength, one that doesn't intimidate, but rather invites. This is the path to becoming a central figure in the king's inner circle, a person of fascination in his eyes. This gentle allure is not a weakness, it is a lure, a whispered invitation to a world of intimacy and affection that he so deeply desires. You've successfully caught the king's attention. Now, you must turn that attention into an opportunity. You could offer to serve as a page, a tea maker, or even a dancer in his private court. Every small task is a chance for you to be near the king, for him to remember your name, and more importantly, for you to become an indispensable part of his daily routine. Your small services will become threads in the rich tapestry of his life, weaving your destiny into his. The most sacred space in the castle is not the throne room, but the antechamber, where the king's most personal servants wait. You must earn a place there. Behind the roars of the crowd, you hear the buzzing whispers of a beehive in the night, the sharp glances of daggers from those who have played this game before. They understand exactly what you are doing. But you're not alone in this ambitious journey. The court is a strange, intricate machine, and there are other men and women, often the king's rivals or jaded old-timers, who are looking for a new star to challenge the old favorites. They will help you. They will create opportunities for you to appear before the king. They will even provide you with the finest clothes, the most exotic perfumes, and the most flattering jewels. This is not friendship. This is an investment. You are a commodity, and they are your investors. You must learn to identify these potential sponsors, these puppet masters who can pull the strings and place you exactly where you need to be. Your success is their revenge, and their greed is your greatest asset. You close your eyes for a moment, feeling the rhythm of your heart, knowing this is only the prelude. The real game, a labyrinth of poisonous serpents and honeyed words, has only just begun. You, with a bruise on your shoulder and a royal handkerchief in your hand, are ready to write the next chapter of this story, your story, in a world that only the most reckless dare to dream of power. The sweet smell of power, a heady mix of frankincense and ambition, is now yours to savor.
The royal handkerchief, an artifact imbued with the king's scent of frankincense and power, feels less like linen and more like a live wire in your hand. The court, a beast of 1,000 watchful eyes, has quieted. The joust has concluded, but a new, far more dangerous game has just begun. Your first, accidental stumble was a flawless opening move, a chess piece placed precisely to be noticed. But now you must learn to move with purpose. The eyes of the other courtiers, 1,000 tiny knives, are fixed on you. not with curiosity, but with a cold, analytical dread. They are measuring you, weighing your potential against their own stagnant careers. Every step you take from this moment on will be a performance. Every gesture, a calculated risk. Every breath, a conscious act of defiance against the unspoken rules of this viper's nest. You are a star on a new stage, and your body is the instrument of your art. The dusty field of the joust is behind you. The perfumed halls of the palace await, and the air crackles with the silent electricity of envy. Your goal isn't just to be liked, it is to become a part of the king's life, a presence he expects as naturally as the sun rising. You walk beside the king now, a privilege so rare it is like walking on a tightrope over a pit of vipers. The other nobles, a sea of silk and embroidered discontent, part before you as if you are royalty yourself. This is your first test. Do not walk with the stiff, formal gait of a courtier. Do not swagger with the arrogance of a victor. You must move with the easy familiarity of a trusted companion. After a long day of hunting, a weariness settles upon the king, and this is your cue. His shoulders, once so straight, are now slightly slumped under the invisible weight of the crown. As he slows, you place your hand gently, almost imperceptibly, on his arm, a gesture of support that is both tender and possessive. This isn't a casual touch, it is a declaration. It tells the entire court, 1,000 gossiping tongues, that you are the only one who can stand this close, the only one allowed to offer such intimate comfort. You even catch a glimpse of old Lord Cavendish attempting to replicate your half-smile, a crude caricature on his wrinkled face, and you hear the guttural whispers of his cronies as you effortlessly take the king's intimate side. While others bow and scrape from a distance, your hand on his arm is a new kind of scepter, a silent claim to a throne that no one else can even see. Your eyes, a weapon forged in the furnace of ambition, are your next tool. When the king speaks to you, do not look at him as a monarch, a granite statue of authority. Look at him as a man. Your gaze must be a paradox, a blend of deep admiration and a shared secret, a twinkle that says, "I see you, not the crown." This is a look the other nobles who only dare to look at the floor can never replicate. Their eyes are tools of subservience, but yours are keys to a locked treasure chest. You listen with your entire body, leaning in just enough to show you are not just hearing his words, but devouring them. Your eyes are wide, not with fear, but with a genuine fascination that makes him feel like the most interesting man in the world. He is a weary traveler, and your gaze is a warm fire, a place where he can finally rest. You are a perfectly polished mirror, reflecting every emotion, every word back to him with a quiet, sacred reverence. Notice where the king stands. The nobles, a flock of power-hungry vultures, fight for the right side, the position of power. But you know better. You know that King James, a man with a mind as labyrinthine as his palace, favors his left side, the side of intimacy. It is where he leans, where he feels most at ease, where his heart beats closest to you. You will find ways to always be on his left. A turn in a hallway, a shift at a banquet table, a subtle movement during a hunting party. You will become a satellite in his orbit, always positioned perfectly to catch his every word, to feel the warmth of his presence. gradually you become an indispensable part of his life's tapestry, a point of support he no longer questions, but simply expects. And your smile. Oh, your smile is worth more than all the gold in his coffers. Do not offer a full, toothy grin. That is the smile of a fool, a smile that is too easy, too available. You must master the half smile, a delicate, almost imperceptible curve of the lips. It is a smile that makes others wonder if you are truly happy, or if you are thinking of a secret joke that only you and the king share. This is not a simple expression of beauty. It is a code, a cipher that only he can decipher. With the king, this half-smile is a private language, a signal that you understand him on a level no one else can. It is a riddle they can't solve. A full smile is an open book. Your half-smile is a whispered poem, a mystery that draws him closer every time he sees it. It is a quiet declaration of shared intimacy, a secret understood only between the two of you, making every moment an intimate conspiracy. When the king bestows upon you a gift, a jeweled brooch, a finely bound book, your reaction must be a symphony of emotion. Do not simply blurt out a thank you. That is the response of a servant. Instead, let your eyes fall on the gift, then slowly, gracefully lift them to meet his gaze. Let a look of genuine, heart-stopping surprise and touched awe wash over your face, as if you are receiving not an object, but a piece of his soul. Let your gratitude be a quiet, unspoken thing, a powerful current of emotion that makes him feel like a god. This is how you tell him the gift isn't just a physical object, but a sacred testament to the unique bond you share. In the vast, crowded halls of the palace, your body is your shield and your sword. You don't need to speak to show your power. When you are conversing with other nobles, let your hand stray, as if by accident, to the royal handkerchief tucked into your sleeve, or the ring on your finger that he gave you. This is a subtle act of possession. The handkerchief becomes a symbol, a tiny embroidered flag of your station. The ring is a shackle, a chain that binds you to him and him to you in the eyes of all who see it. These aren't just accessories. They are sacraments of your new religion, a cult of two with you as the high priest. Others will see these gestures and understand instantly, with a cold, sinking feeling, that you are not just a favorite. You are an extension of the king himself.
Now we must speak of the most intimate space of all, the king's bedchamber. In this sanctuary, the walls whisper the history of the court's true power. This is where you establish your monopoly on his peace of mind. One night, perhaps, you concoct a story of a frightful sound in the dead of night, a sound of scratching at the window, of a shadow that flits by. "I heard a noise, Your Majesty," you might whisper. "I feared for your safety." This is your chance. You must make him believe that his rest, his very life, is safe only in your presence. The space by his bedside is not an honor, it is an exclusive guarantee on his tranquility. This is a unique privilege. To ensure his peace is a condition no one else can fulfill. The bedroom air is heavy with the scent of beeswax, lavender, and the faint, coppery smell of power. The only sound is the rhythmic creak of the floorboards, a haunting echo of all the secrets buried beneath. At the opulent feasts, where the air smells of roasted boar and whispered conspiracies, you must become a stillness with a magnetic pull. While others chatter and laugh, vying for attention, you must stand silently beside the king. You are not a guest, you're a guardian. Your silence will become a mystery, a powerful, enigmatic presence that others cannot help but stare at. It will set you apart from the noisy, desperate crowd, making you seem all the more intriguing. The chatter of the court is a symphony of noise. Your silence is the profound, beautiful bass note that anchors the entire composition. When the king smiles or laughs at something you've said, the rest of the room falls silent, holding its breath. Then, like a flock of sheep, they follow his lead, all laughing at a joke they didn't hear. This brings us to the final, most brutal lesson. The gestures you're mastering, the touches, the smiles, the silent poses, these are not for love. They are for power. You must not confuse the two, as many before you have done, to their ultimate destruction. You are an architect of your own destiny, and every touch, every glance is a brick in the wall that will protect you from the rest of the world. Remember the tragic tale of poor Lord Ormond, who mistook the Queen's sweet whispers for genuine affection, only to be banished the moment her influence waned. Your actions are not for love, but for a different kind of bond, one built on dependency and strategic intimacy. This is the difference between being a fleeting lover and a historical figure. This is the difference between a sad end and a glorious legacy. The choice is yours.
The cold, unforgiving surface of the mirror is now your new battlefield, a far more treacherous arena than any jousting ground. The clatter of steel is gone, replaced by the rustle of silk and the faint, haunting scent of strange unguents filling your private world. You glance at the royal handkerchief, now folded neatly in your sleeve, a subtle reminder of your past victory. But a new victory requires a new strategy. The prize is no longer the king's attention, it is his enduring fascination. You have become a carefully curated piece of art, and every detail of your being, down to the very pores of your skin, must be a masterpiece. The court may run on whispers and ambition, but you have learned its true currency is flawless beauty, a form of power so absolute it renders all political talent moot. This is a game of surfaces, and you are its grand master, painting your destiny stroke by meticulous stroke. You stand before the mirror, not as a man admiring his reflection, but as a general surveying his army. The king, with his almost preternatural sensitivity to aesthetics, sees things others miss. He sees the shadow beneath a sleepless eye, the faint lines of stress around a mouth. You must perform a ruthless self-assessment, a micro-inventory of every flaw. You trace the sharp line of your jaw, a strength. Then a finger lingers on the barely there freckle on your cheek, a potential weakness. Each imperfection is a potential bullet hole in your armor. To conquer the king, you must first know yourself better than any man has ever known you. This is the fundamental truth of this new world. Your face is not just a face, it is a kingdom, and you must protect its borders with the ferocity of a king. At the royal banquets, a riot of greasy sauces and roasted meats, you are a vision of disciplined elegance. While others gorge themselves, their faces growing flushed and bloated, you carefully select from a cornucopia of fresh, vibrant fruits and crisp dark greens. The air is thick with the scent of roasted boar and whispered conspiracies, but you only consume what serves your purpose. A crimson plum, a delicate piece of asparagus. These are not just food, they are fuel for your beauty. And always you drink the fine red wine, a liquid elixir from the sun-drenched vineyards of France, believed by the court's most learned physicians to be the secret to ageless beauty and a steady wit. It's a daily communion with the gods of beauty, a ritual more sacred than any sermon. You are not simply dining, you are sculpting your form for the king's gaze. Every night, your bedchamber becomes a secret apothecary, a sanctuary of a different kind. You anoint your face with a special oil imported from France, massaging it in with slow, deliberate strokes. Its texture is like liquid silk, its scent a delicate mix of lavender and something subtly exotic, a scent that only you know. This is not just skin care, it is a nocturnal liturgy, a quiet prayer to the gods of beauty. This nightly ritual not only ensures a flawless complexion, but also whispers to the king that you are a man of exquisite taste and self-care, a rare flower in a garden of common weeds. This meticulousness, this attention to detail, is a language all its own, and James I is its most fluent speaker. With a perfect complexion comes the need for a perfect wardrobe. You seek out the finest tailor in the kingdom, a man with a wry smile and the eyes of a conspirator. He is your silent accomplice. He crafts suits of rich velvet and fine silk that drape over your frame, accentuating your physique without a hint of vulgarity. These are not mere clothes, they are an architectural marvel, designed to frame your beauty and draw the eye. A well-tailored suit, even a simple one, is a spotlight in a crowded theater. You are not simply dressing, you're sculpting yourself for the king's eyes, a masterpiece in motion. The other courtiers in their gaudy, over-embroidered garments look like desperate peacocks in comparison. You even hear them whispering behind cupped hands as you pass, their envy a palpable thing, like a heavy, unseen shroud. Your hair is a carefully cultivated illusion of effortless grace. It is soft, flowing, and styled in a way that suggests you simply woke up this way. But you know the truth. You know that hours are spent with combs and scented oils, coaxing each strand into a state of artfully undone perfection. It is a secret art, a deception so subtle that it passes for natural beauty. The other men, with their stiff, pomaded coiffes, look like petrified dolls. Your hair, however, is a flowing banner of freedom and youth, a testament to a grace that they can only envy and never achieve. The king, you have come to realize, is not a fan of the sun. He prefers the pale, ethereal beauty of men who seem untouched by the harsh world outside the palace walls. So you learn to become a creature of shadow. Even when invited on a hunting trip, a royal honor, you find ways to avoid the sun's harsh kiss. A flamboyantly wide-brimmed hat, an elegant accessory that doubles as a shield, becomes your constant companion. You discreetly apply a special cream, a secret unguent that protects your skin from the brutal sunlight. You are not a hunter. You are a vampire, a beautiful, eternal being whose skin is a testament to a life lived in a world of refined shadows.
and you can see the freezing glares of the other courtiers, those sunburned men with their leathery skin, as they watch you gracefully evade their taunts to brave the sun. Your scent is another weapon, a psychological tool of subtle influence. You scorn the other men with their heavy, overpowering perfumes, which smell like a desperate attempt to cover up a bad reputation. You choose a lighter, more subtle fragrance, the clean, earthy scent of sandalwood, or the delicate aroma of lavender, a whisper in a world of shouts. It's a perfume so subtle, it seems to emanate from your skin itself, a hint of something warm and intimate that only the king, standing close to you, can fully appreciate. Your scent is a subtle fingerprint on his memory, a silent assurance of your presence even when you are gone.
And then there are your eyes. To keep them bright and clear, you shun the late-night carousing and boisterous gambling of the other nobles, who show up to court with bloodshot, exhausted eyes. Your eyes, sparkling with intelligence and a hint of delicious mystery, are your greatest asset. They are the things that will remain with the king long after you have left his side, a memory he will not be able to shake. Your eyes say, "I am a riddle you have not yet solved." And for a king who is bored with the obvious, this is an irresistible invitation. You even see him, from across a crowded room, catch your gaze and hold it, as if drawing strength from your calm intensity. In this court, you learn a flawless face is an active choice. The slightest imperfection is a threat to your existence. You discover the ancient art of healing, the secret herbal remedies that prevent scars from forming. You hide away these precious unguents, these magical balms, like a witch with her potions. You know that even the smallest scratch, the faintest bruise, is a declaration of war on your carefully constructed facade. A scar is not just a mark. It is a permanent record of a moment of weakness, a flaw that could shatter your career. You fight every wound, every blemish with a chilling ferocity, for you know a crack in the glass could bring the whole house of cards tumbling down. You close your eyes and take a deep, slow breath. Your skin feels taut and smooth. Your hair is perfectly disheveled, and your body is a testament to the fact that you are no longer just a man, but a carefully curated piece of art. This new story, this labyrinth of beauty and deception, has just begun, and with a perfect face as your shield, you are ready for whatever twisted masterpiece comes next.
You have become a permanent fixture in the king's orbit, a celestial body with its own gravitational pull. But every new star in the firmament casts a long shadow, and in that darkness the ghosts of past constellations stir. They are the former favorites, the men who once held your hand, who once slept by the king's side, who once believed they were untouchable. They are not a disorganized rabble. They are a wolf pack, silent and calculating, watching you from the corners of their eyes. Their envy is a thick, tangible thing, a fog of resentment that makes the air heavy and hard to breathe. They have seen this play before, and they know every beat. They know the rise, the climax, and the inevitable brutal fall. Their smiles are razors, their compliments are poison, and their kindness is a more terrifying weapon than any blade. You must learn to read the language of their defeat, to see the history in their haunted eyes, for they are both your most dangerous enemies and your most vital teachers. The first lesson in this brutal syllabus is the art of strategic ignorance. When you walk into the great hall, a cathedral of gilded ambition, and you feel their collective gaze, sharp as 1,000 shards of broken glass, do not meet it. Your eyes are for the king alone. You are a solar system of one, and he is your sun. When they whisper a cutting joke just loud enough for you to hear, you simply laugh at a story the king is telling you. Their mockery is a forgotten echo, their existence a fleeting rumor. You treat their presence as you would a draft from a poorly sealed window, a mild, temporary inconvenience to be ignored. You and the king are in a private world, a bubble of intimacy so thick with trust and affection that their venomous words simply cannot penetrate. This deliberate obliviousness is a knife plunged directly into the heart of their ego, a victory more satisfying than any battle cry. But not every former favorite will be a straightforward enemy. Some will try to get close, to ingratiate themselves. They will offer you gifts and invitations, their smiles as bright and false as fool's gold. You must become a human lie detector with an uncanny ability to read the tells in their eyes. Sometimes it's a fleeting twitch of their jaw as they compliment your suit, a muscular spasm that screams, "I want to see you fail." Other times, it's the way their eyes dart away when they flash you a dazzling smile, a brief flicker of genuine malice behind the fake charm. These are not people. They are vessels for your enemy's secrets, and you must learn to read them like a book.
And then there are the gifts. Oh, the gifts. They are never what they seem. One day, Robert Carr, the king's former beloved, might present you with a beautifully embroidered handkerchief. Your mind, a well-oiled machine of suspicion, knows instantly that this is not an act of charity. It is a curse. It is the same handkerchief the king once gave him, a painful reminder of his own glorious and now forgotten past. This gift is a prophecy, a whisper in your ear that says, your fate is a copy of mine, a tragic, inevitable repetition. You accept it with a smile, a masterpiece of polite deception, and then you burn it. The silk shrivels in the flame, the royal crest curling into a black, unrecognizable ash. The king's musk mixing with the sharp tang of burning ambition. You watch it turn to dust, a silent vow that their past will not be your future. This isn't a simple disposal. It's an exorcism, a ritual to sever yourself from his fate. When they taunt you with words, a weapon they have wielded for years, you must respond with a wit sharper than their steel. They will make veiled references to your lack of political experience, a not-so-subtle attempt to remind you of your place. A former favorite, a man whose face is a roadmap of his past glory, might condescendingly ask you for your opinion on a foreign policy matter. You must reply with a casual, devastating shrug. I have no experience in foreign policy, you might say, with a soft, knowing smile that sends shivers down their spines. But I have experience in making the king happy. And isn't that, after all, the most important experience of all? Your words are not just a joke. They are a public declaration of your power, a punchline that leaves them reeling.
You cannot fight them all at once. The former favorites are a united front, a cabal of fallen stars. But you can win over the masses. You have the king's ear, a power more potent than any army. You must use it to advocate for the forgotten, the lowly, the men and women who scurry through the palace like mice. You find a poor soldier whose pension has been cut, and you quietly secure it for him. You intervene for a servant girl who has been unfairly punished. The whispers of gratitude that follow you through the halls are a sweeter symphony than any royal fanfare, and they are worth more than gold. These humble souls, who once saw only the cruelty of power, now see a different kind of patron. These calculated kindnesses are not charity. They are investments, buying you a kingdom of allies, and painting your predecessors as the cruel, selfish monsters they truly are.
You must be on guard for the spies. The old guard, masters of intrigue, will try to plant agents in your circle, men and women who will feign loyalty to you, but whose true allegiance is to your downfall. You become a student of human nature, a detective in a velvet cloak. You look for the signs, a strange, lingering question, an overly enthusiastic compliment, a darting gaze that doesn't quite meet yours. You feed them carefully curated lies, a trail of false breadcrumbs that leads them and their masters down the path to irrelevance. For in a court where everyone smiles, the only person you can truly trust is the man in the mirror. The walls of the palace are not just stone, they are a library of whispers, a history of tragic falls. The tales of the former favorites, their glory and their ultimate ruin, are a living legend in this court. They are stories of men who confused the king's affection for love, his favors for a permanent contract. You must listen to these stories, not as an audience, but as a student. You learn from their mistakes. You internalize their downfalls. Their tragedies are not a curse. They are a cautionary tale, a lesson in how not to fail. They serve as a grim roadmap, showing you the potholes and dead ends you must avoid on your own treacherous journey to power. Do not wait for them to attack. You have the advantage of momentum, the irresistible force of the king's favor. You must strike first, but not with a sword. You use your power to strip them of their privileges. A hunting lodge they once held? You quietly suggest the king give it to a deserving commoner. A title they held for generations? You find a way to undermine their claim, to make them look unworthy. These are not acts of cruelty. They are surgical strikes, a slow, methodical dismantling of their legacy. You are not just replacing them, you are erasing them, one privilege at a time. This is how you send a clear, unequivocal message that their time is over and yours has only just begun.
You learn of a rumor that Robert Carr is planning to marry a powerful and ambitious woman. This is a game changer, a new alliance that could threaten your position. A lesser man would see it as a domestic affair. You see it as a declaration of war. You must find a way to sabotage this union. You whisper in the king's ear about the woman's ambition, her potential treachery, her unsuitability. You paint a picture of a woman who will use Carr as a puppet to seize power for herself, an alliance that will threaten the king's own rule. You turn a private affair into a public threat.
and a love story into a political tragedy. This is not about love or hate. It is about survival, about ensuring that no one, not even a former favorite, can build an empire that rivals your own. In the end, all of this, the silent wars, the poisoned compliments, the sabotaged weddings, it all comes down to one immutable principle. The king's trust is the only thing that matters. Their whispers, their plots, their pathetic attempts to undermine you are all meaningless if you have the king's ear, his affection, his unshakable belief in your loyalty. He is your fortress, your shield, and your sword. You must tend to his trust like a sacred flame, protecting it from every draft, every storm, every envious glance from the ghosts of yesterday. You look at the former favorites, their faces etched with the bitterness of their loss, and you know their true mistake. They forgot that in this court, love is a mirage, but the king's trust is the only real kingdom. You, however, will not make that mistake.
The air in the court has changed. The old guard, with their bitter, haunted eyes and brittle smiles, are a known quantity, a defeated army whose tactics you have already mastered. But a new front has opened, a fresh storm on the horizon, and it brings with it the unsettling scent of change. They are not merely courtiers, they are products of a different world, a different school. They are the Frenchmen, the candidates, as they whisper in hushed tones, trained from birth in the dark arts of seduction and wit. They arrive not with the desperate swagger of men trying to make their way, but with the cool, effortless grace of men who have already arrived. Their laughter is a siren's call, their compliments are a poisoned chalice, and their very existence is a direct, undeniable threat to your carefully constructed empire. They are here to do to you what you did to your predecessors, to make you an echo of a forgotten past. You thought you had an impeccable wardrobe? Oh, my dear, you were so wrong. The Frenchmen step into the room, and suddenly your finest velvet feels like a sackcloth. Your meticulous embroidery looks like a child's drawing. Their clothes are not mere garments. They are architectural marvels, sculptures of silk and linen, so exquisitely tailored they seem to have been sewn directly onto their skin. Every seam, every button, every cuff is a statement of cultural superiority, a subtle jab at the unrefined English taste. You return to your trusted tailor, the man who helped you create your previous masterpieces. He now faces his greatest challenge, to transform you into a superior version, a next-level predator in the fashion game. Your task is not to copy them, but to become an evolution, to find the cutting edge of Parisian style and make it your own, ensuring you are not a footnote in the story of their style. They do not simply speak English, they sprinkle their conversations with French, a linguistic weapon that makes the king's eyes light up with a nostalgic glow. They whisper of love and loss in a language he adores, weaving tales of passion and romance that sound more beautiful in their native tongue. You, standing by his side, suddenly feel like a barbarian, an outsider in your own kingdom. At one point, the king laughs uproariously at a joke told by a French courtier, Monsieur Dubois, and you feel a chill down your spine. It wasn't just a joke, it was a connection you'd never seen before,
a dangerous spark in the king's eyes. You must either master the language of love yourself, or become a master of the listening art. You nod at the right moments. You offer a soft laugh at a joke you didn't understand, and you maintain a look of profound shared intimacy. Your goal is not to understand the words, but to convey that you are the only one who truly understands the king's heart, a silent pact of two that transcends any language, even the beautiful poetry of Paris. The Frenchmen, you quickly realize, wield perfume not as a simple scent, but as a psychological weapon. Their fragrances are not the cloying, heavy musk of English courtiers, but something subtle, complex, and deeply sensual. It smells of Parisian gardens at dusk, a scent that transports the king back to a time of youthful romance and exotic adventures. You must counter this. You need a signature scent, an olfactory fingerprint so unique and so intimately yours that every time the king smells it, he doesn't think of a foreign land, but of home. He thinks of your warmth, your loyalty, your companionship. This scent is your brand, an indelible mark on his soul that cannot be washed away by the tide of French charm.
The battle of cultures is a front you cannot afford to lose. The Frenchmen, with their tales of operas, ballets, and extravagant Parisian soirees, create a cultural bubble that excludes you. The king, a man who despises the rusticity of his own kingdom, is enthralled. You watch as his eyes light up differently when a Frenchman named Lebrun describes a grand opera in Paris. It's not simple admiration, it's a longing, an obsession with a world you don't belong to, a world he is being pulled into. Your strategy is not to join their conversation, but to create your own. You must find a forgotten English composer and commission a piece of music so heartbreakingly beautiful it moves the king to tears. You must sponsor a play so witty and satirical it makes the entire court roar with laughter. You are not a follower, you are a creator. You remind the king that the true beauty he craves, the true artistic spirit, resides not across the channel, but right here, in his own kingdom, and more importantly, with you. Do not let their elegant demeanor fool you. These are not merely well-dressed romantics, they are master manipulators, wolves in expensive sheep's clothing. They will see the flicker of jealousy in your eyes, a human flaw that you, for all your self-control, cannot completely suppress, and they will use it as a weapon. They will offer you a seemingly sincere compliment, a fleeting word of encouragement, a subtle nod of respect, a quiet acknowledgement of your position. But these are not gestures of kindness. They are traps designed to lull you into a false sense of security, to make you drop your guard just long enough for them to strike. Their kindness is a gilded cage, and you must never, ever step inside. A new Frenchman's arrival feels like a test, an experiment. The king, a man who loves novelty, treats you like an old familiar toy that he is about to replace with a shiny new one. You feel the weight of his gaze, the quiet comparison he is making between your loyalty and their novelty, your history and their mystery. This is the moment to reveal your true power. You are not a toy to be played with. You are a partner, a companion, a confidant. You remind him through your subtle gestures and your unwavering presence that you are the one who knows his fears, his dreams, his silent heart. They may offer him a new world, but you are the only one who truly understands his old one, a truth more comforting than any romantic fantasy. Your silent network of allies, built in the shadows of the palace, now turns its gaze on these newcomers. The whispers from your loyal servants, once focused on the old guard, now bring you different intelligence, the schedules, the weaknesses, and the daily activities of the Frenchmen. You need to know their plans before they even form, to counter their every move before it has a chance to root take. Who can you trust? No one. That is the rule. And with that rule, you build your empire of mistrust and loyalty. The time for defense is over. With the king's trust, a power more potent than any army, you know that standing still is to invite defeat. Your strike will not be a sword, but a series of invisible, subtle moves. You use your power to control the channels of communication, to censor the news from France, to manipulate the guest list for the king's parties. You make them feel like outsiders in a kingdom they have been so carefully trained to conquer. You make the court an alien territory for them, a place where their wit falls flat, their charm goes unnoticed, and every move of theirs is watched with 1,000 knowing eyes. You're not just a courtier, you are the reigning monarch of this social ecosystem, and you remind them of that with every silent, calculated move.
Do not compete with their romance. They are masters of love, but you are a master of security. The king, for all his romantic fantasies, is a deeply paranoid man. He needs a partner, yes, but he also needs an anchor, a rock in the storm. They offer him fleeting passion. You offer him unshakable loyalty. They offer him romance. You offer him safety. You become his shield against the world, his silent sentinel in the dark, the one man who would never, ever betray him. This is a kind of love they cannot compete with, a bond built not on fantasy, but on the cold, hard, terrifying reality of a world that is always waiting to destroy him. Their arrival is a wake-up call, a grim prophecy of your own future. They are a new generation, younger and more talented. You must learn to fight them, or you will become a ghost like the men who came before you. That thought sends a shiver of dread through you, a fear colder than any winter wind in the palace. In this court, love is a fragile, fleeting gain, but power is a constant, a brutal force of nature. And you, with your carefully constructed armor, are ready for the storm.
The quiet, desperate whispers of the Frenchmen have faded into the gilded woodwork, their elegant perfume a forgotten ghost in the corridors of power. You have not merely won, you have annihilated them, proving that homegrown ambition laced with a modern flair is a more potent aphrodisiac than any continental charm. Now a new force, a gilded avalanche of power threatens to bury you. King James, a man whose affection is as boundless as his kingdom's debt, has showered you with titles, lands, and a river of gold so vast it could flood the treasury itself. You are now obscenely, ridiculously rich, and this, you quickly learn, is a battlefield as treacherous as any you have faced. For in this court, money is not just a reward, it is a test, a performance, a new language you must learn to speak with effortless aristocratic grace. You have the king's love, yes, but now you must prove you are worthy of his extravagance, that you can spend with the same magnificent abandon with which he gives. You might wonder, with all the naivety of a man not yet fully initiated into this world, how a king as powerful as James I could be so deeply in debt. You see a debt crisis, but he sees a ledger of affection. The first, most liberating lesson you learn is this: you are not responsible for your own bills. Go ahead, throw the most lavish parties, buy the rarest silks, commission the most intricate jewelry. For every single invoice, every outrageous debt will find its way not to your coffers, but to the royal treasury, a place whose bottom is a bottomless pit of endless IOUs. Your debts became the kingdom's greatest secret, a magnificent, beautiful lie that everyone knew and no one dared to speak. And when you saw the king's signature on the final bill, you understood. His affection was not just a gift, it was a blank check with the fate of an entire nation signed at the bottom. Your parties were less events and more royal decrees, public affirmations of your glorious ascent. You became the ringmaster of pleasure, orchestrating celebrations that felt more like fever dreams than courtly gatherings. You would invite every noble, every merchant of consequence, but you made sure you were the sun around which all their tiny, insignificant planets revolved. You hired the most graceful dancers from Italy, chefs who could make a simple pea taste like a forbidden fruit, and decorators who turned the palace into a riot of exotic flowers and priceless tapestries. The air was thick with the scent of roasted meat, foreign wine, and a palpable envy so heavy it felt like a fifth column in your own home. The whispers that followed, tales of your immeasurable wealth and exquisite taste, were not a form of gossip. They were a form of praise, a sweet music to the king's ears that made him beam with pride as if he were his own magnificent creation.
You could not, under any circumstances, wear an outfit twice. Your closet became a graveyard of masterpieces, a tomb for exquisitely tailored suits and cloaks that, after a single night's wear, were never to be seen again. You would have the finest tailors in London, their hands moving with the precision of a surgeon and the artistry of a painter, work tirelessly to create a new vision of you for every royal engagement. King James loved to see you in something fresh, as if you were a living, breathing work of art, whose every new coat was a new masterpiece. The clothes were not for warmth or decency, they were a performance, a daily affirmation of your unique, untouchable status. When the king's generosity was at its peak, you didn't just spend the money, you invested it in the one thing that truly mattered: permanence. You bought land, vast tracts of it, with the ruthless efficiency of a conquering general. Land was not about crops or cottages, it was about power, about planting your flag firmly in the soil of this kingdom. Every acre you acquired was a new, unassailable wall around your fortress of favor, a permanent, physical symbol of your place in this world. The former favorites, with their empty pockets and forgotten titles, were proof that wealth could be taken. But land was a legacy, a stone monument to your ambition that would remain long after the king's affection had inevitably moved on. A rare Arabian horse was not a beast of burden. It was a living, breathing title, a public declaration of your untouchable status. You would acquire expensive paintings, priceless jewels, and magnificent sculptures, not for their beauty, but for the story they told about you. Each item was a press release, a piece of propaganda broadcast to the entire court, a message that screamed, "I am the king's favorite, and this is what his love looks like." These objects were not possessions, they were silent heralds, trumpeting your name and your power long before you ever had to speak a single word. With the king's endless generosity, your silent network of allies, once cultivated through small kindnesses, now spread like wildfire. Gold could buy you eyes and ears in every shadowed corner, securing intelligence previously beyond your reach,
from a lord's private ledgers to the secret whispered rumors in a rival's bedchamber. No longer were you just an eavesdropper. Your money gave you the power to manipulate the narratives, to control the information that flowed through the veins of the court, building a kingdom of your own, a private empire of loyalty that no one, not even the king, would ever see. And then there were the kisses. You might have thought a king's kiss was just a sign of affection, but you quickly learned it was a transaction. He would pull you close, his lips a whispered blessing, and as he drew back, he would press a small leather pouch of gold into your hand. His kiss was a golden touch, a modern-day Midas blessing that turned affection into currency. You learned to accept it with a look of genuine surprise and overwhelming gratitude, a performance of humility that only served to make him feel more magnificent. A kiss from the king was worth 1,000 gold pieces, a secret economy of affection that only you were privy to, a testament to the surreal, transactional nature of this court.
You even learned to lose on purpose. At the card table, where the stakes were high and the players were desperate, you would let yourself fall behind, a performance of vulnerability that felt agonizingly real. Your losses were not a failure. They were a strategic withdrawal, a brilliant tactical retreat. And when the debt grew to a hilariously impossible sum, you would go to the king, not with a tale of woe, but with a sheepish, charming story of your foolishness. He would laugh, clap you on the shoulder, and with a wave of his hand, he would have the royal treasury pay off your debts. You were not gambling with money. You were gambling with his affection. And you were winning every single time. You would also participate in auctions, not to buy, but to show your power. The room would fall silent as a priceless statue or a rare tapestry was put up for bid. The other nobles, their eyes wide with greed, would bid with the nervous energy of men who knew their limits. But you would stand up and with a casual flick of your wrist, you would bid a sum so impossibly high it took the wind out of their sails. They would sigh with relief, a twisted smile on their lips as they won the item. But then their eyes would meet yours, and the relief would curdle into bitter shame as they realized they had won an empty victory, a puppet in your theatrical display of power. And finally, you realized that all of this, the spending, the parties, the gambling, it is all a performance, a prelude to the only thing that truly matters, a lasting legacy. What is a royal favorite but a fleeting shadow, unless he builds a sun to cast his own light? Your money, you understood, was not for pleasure. It was for permanence, a foundation for your name to be carved into the very stone of this kingdom, long after the king's affection has finally and inevitably changed. You would not be remembered as just a king's toy.
The aftershocks of the Frenchman's departure have settled, leaving a silence in the court as unsettling as the calm before a storm. You have mastered the art of spending the king's money with magnificent theatrical abandon, and your name is now synonymous with wealth, influence, and a kind of glorious aristocratic excess that leaves the old nobles gasping with a mixture of envy and respect. But you are a historian of this court, a student of its grim, cyclical nature, and you know this golden age is a fleeting mirage. The king's affection, as warm and steady as it is now, is not a granite foundation. It is a house built of 1,000 playing cards, held together by the gentle breath of his favor. Your enemies, those bitter ghosts who once stood in your shoes, are not sleeping. They are waiting. And you, the king's favorite, are a fortress with no walls, a general with no army. It is time to forge a shield not of steel, but of flesh and blood. It is time to get married. This is not a pilgrimage to the altar of love. It is a contract, a military alliance, the most important business deal of your surreal life. Your heart, a muscle that you have trained to be a silent, subservient ally to your ambition, has no say in this matter. This is not a search for a soulmate. It is a search for a dynasty. You begin by creating a meticulous marriage dossier, a black-bound book that is less a romantic catalog and more a strategic map of the kingdom's most powerful families. You pore over the names of potential candidates, not looking for beauty or wit, but for lineage, for connections, for the quiet, unassailable power that comes from ancient blood and vast lands. Who is the daughter of a baron who controls the northern ports? Who has a father with the king's ear on matters of trade? This isn't a courtship. It is a military reconnaissance, a cold, clinical analysis of who can offer you a bulwark against the inevitable tides of jealousy and betrayal. This book of names is a Bible of power, and you, its high priest, are prepared to sacrifice everything for its sacred tenets.
When you finally approach your chosen candidate, a woman whose name alone carries the weight of 100 battles, you do not come with flowers or saccharine words. That is the pathetic domain of men who still believe in fairy tales. You present yourself as a man of chilling indifference, a statue of quiet confidence. These women, raised on a diet of sycophantic flattery, are used to being chaste. Your aloofness is a puzzle, a mystery that they find infinitely more captivating than any desperate display of affection. You are not a suitor, you are a prize, a rare, exotic bird they feel an instinctual need to capture. The cold weight of an emerald ring you offer her is not a symbol of your love. It is a silent, unblinking promise of the power she will gain by your side. You are the embodiment of a challenge, and every woman of metal knows that the hardest-won trophies are the most satisfying. This marriage, you make clear from the very first meeting, is not about everlasting love. It is about an everlasting alliance. You sit down with her family, not in a drawing room for pleasantries, but in a study where the air is thick with the scent of old paper and ambition. You are here to negotiate, and your terms are not up for debate. You will receive a dowry so vast it could fund a small war. She, in turn, will secure a permanent, elevated place in the king's court, a kind of immortality. And her father, a man whose face is a roadmap of shrewd transactions, will agree to be your unshakable political ally, a loyal general in your coming battles. You are a master of this court's bizarre economics, and this, you understand, is the biggest deal you have ever negotiated. Your true power, your trump card, is a secret you must share with your new wife. You take her aside, away from the prying eyes and ears of the court, and you reveal your greatest asset,
your relationship with the king. You don't tell her with words, but with whispers, with knowing glances, with the cold, undeniable weight of a gift from the king himself, a ring only you could have received. You tell her not of his love, but of his trust, the dark secrets he has confided in you, the private world you two share. You make her understand that marrying you is not just marrying into a powerful family. It is buying a direct, unassailable line to the throne itself. Your proximity to the king is a promise, a guarantee that her family's future is now tethered to your own glorious, terrifying fate.
You even find a strange, delicious pleasure in cultivating the king's jealousy, transforming it into a protective fire. You casually mention your wife's wit, her grace, the way other men's eyes linger on her at balls, the expensive gifts you lavish upon her. Each story is a subtle jab, a reminder that your attention is now a commodity to be fought over. And you notice a peculiar thing. Every time you talk of your wife's charm, a flicker of possessiveness passes through the king's eyes. It's a flash of pure, primal envy that makes you shiver with both terror and exhilaration. It is a free security system, a fire that operates without a single instruction, pulling you closer to him with every mention of your wife's life outside his orbit. Your wife, a woman of impeccable lineage and cold, calculating intelligence, becomes a living, breathing shield. Anyone who dares to attack you now faces not just your own formidable cunning, but the full, terrifying might of her entire family. The insults, the whispered rumors, the subtle political maneuvering that once plagued you now simply bounce off the invisible, unbreachable wall of her family's influence. They must now think twice before they act, for to strike at you is to strike at a hydra, an enemy with more heads than they have swords. You are no longer alone, and the sheer, unassailable power of that alliance makes you truly untouchable. You quickly master the art of being an absent husband, a ghost in your own home. Your days are spent with the king, your nights are filled with courtly intrigue. You give her all the trappings of a magnificent life, a grand house, a lavish wardrobe, a retinue of servants, but you give her none of your time. This deliberate distance, you find, is a powerful aphrodisiac. It makes her long for your presence, to crave your attention, to become your most ardent defender in the court, all for a love she is not sure she even has. Your absence, you learn, is a form of presence, a constant reminder that you are a man of consequence, a man whose time is a precious, unattainable commodity.
You must be a master of two separate, completely different performances. When you are with the king, you are his lover, his confidant, his most intimate and devoted companion. You whisper secrets in his ear. You share a private language of jokes and knowing glances. The moment you step into your home, however, you become a husband, a man of power and quiet authority. You are kind to your wife, but you are not intimate. You praise her, but you do not love her. You give her respect, but you do not give her your heart. You have two identities, two faces, and you have to be a flawless actor to keep them from ever meeting. And finally, you must confront the cold, hard reality of your choice. This marriage, a monument to your ambition, is not a celebration of love. It is a sacrifice. You have a family, yes, a powerful, unassailable one, but you do not have a partner, a soulmate, a woman who truly understands the loneliness of your world. You have a wife, but you do not have a companion. The price of this power, you realize, is to be eternally alone, a king in a court of your own making, but with no one to share your throne. Are you have to ask yourself, truly willing to pay that price?
The palace is not a home. It is a cage of gold, and you are its most coveted bird. Your power, once a thrilling, intoxicating drug, now feels like a heavy chain, each link a new responsibility, a new enemy, a new danger you never saw coming. You have a powerful wife, a fortress of land, and a river of gold, but none of it can protect you from the true enemy, the silent, insidious whisper of a secret. The air itself feels different now, heavy with the unspoken. A new kind of game has begun, a game played not with witty words or extravagant parties, but with poison and daggers hidden beneath the table. In this court, murder is not a crime, it is a political tool, a final brutal move in a high-stakes chess match. And a ghost, a man named Thomas Overbury, is about to teach you your most terrifying lesson yet. His death is not a tragedy, it is a prophecy. You must become a connoisseur of impending doom, a sommelier of the breath of death. The Overbury poisoning was not an isolated incident. It was foreshadowed by 1,000 subtle shifts in the court's atmosphere. Did you notice the way Robert Carr's hand would tremble when he spoke to the king? Did you feel the icy chill that would descend upon a room when Overbury's name was mentioned? These are not just feelings, they are the early symptoms of a plague, a psychological sickness that will soon turn to murder. You must learn to read the room like a diviner reads the entrails of a sacrificial animal, seeing the future in the subtle movements, the shifting alliances, and the quiet, nervous energy that hums beneath the court's polished surface. Your survival depends on your ability to smell death before it takes its first victim. A murder cannot be a solitary act. It requires conspirators, foot soldiers, and, most importantly, the quiet complicity of servants. You have built a network of spies with your gold, but now you must reassess its loyalty. Who among your staff, those who see your every move and hear your every secret, is a true ally, and who is a potential Judas? You can no longer afford to be a careless talker. A stray word to a trusted servant, a casual bit of gossip about a rival can become a confession, a smoking gun in the hands of a vengeful enemy. Your privacy is a myth, your secrets a commodity, and every servant, from the lowly scullery maid to your most trusted valet, is a potential witness in your future trial. A letter is not just a message, it is a piece of evidence, a blade with a long memory. In this poisoned climate, your words are not just an expression of your thoughts, they are a weapon, and one that can be turned against you. You must become a master of diplomatic vagueness, a genius of the unsaid. When you write to a former lover of the king, say Robert Carr, every word must be a meticulously crafted lie, a meaningless platitude that cannot, under any circumstances, be twisted into a confession or a conspiracy. A casual observation about the court's gossip, a seemingly harmless query about the king's health, can, with a little legal manipulation, become a damning piece of circumstantial evidence. Your handwriting, once a sign of your education, is now your undoing.
When the news of Overbury's death finally breaks, a whisper that sweeps through the palace like a cold draft, your first move is not to investigate, but to perform. You must become a master of the game of innocence, a performance so subtle and so convincing it would win you an Academy Award. You must feign a look of genuine shock and naive bewilderment. You are not a player in this macabre game. You are an innocent bystander, a victim of circumstance, a man so pure and good that the thought of such a crime would never even cross your mind. Your bewilderment is your armor, your confusion your shield, a theatrical display of innocence that makes the court's accusations bounce off you like arrows off a steel plate. The poisoning of Overbury by a gift, a cursed gift, sent from a seemingly innocent source, is a terrifying lesson. Your own life, you now realize, is a minefield of potential treachery. Every gift you receive, from a velvet cloak to a rare book, is a potential bomb. You must learn to examine every object, every package, every piece of food with the cold, cynical eye of a detective. You trust no one, not your friends, not your allies, and certainly not the former favorites who smile at you with faces full of hidden daggers. A gift, you learn, is not an act of kindness. It is a Trojan horse, a beautifully wrapped box of your own destruction. And when the finger of blame inevitably starts to point in your direction, you must master the art of redirection. You do not accept blame, you assign it. You find a scapegoat, a common enemy, someone you and the king both dislike, and you turn the full force of the court's suspicion on them. Perhaps it is a disgraced courtier, a jealous noble, a man whose ambition you have already trampled underfoot. This isn't just about survival. It is about strengthening your bond with the king. By pointing out a common enemy, you and the king become co-conspirators, two men fighting against a hostile world. Your shared animosity becomes a foundation for a new, stronger kind of trust, a twisted, beautiful kind of loyalty forged in the fires of mutual hatred.
You are now a man of two worlds, the king's lover and a husband to a powerful, ambitious woman. When a murder happens, these two roles clash like tectonic plates, threatening to tear your world apart. You must protect your wife, the queen of your political alliance, from any suspicion. But you must also protect your relationship with the king, the source of all your power. This is a high-wire act, a dangerous performance where a single misstep could mean the end of your entire life. You're a tightrope walker, balancing the love of one with the loyalty of another, and the ground below is a pit of vipers, waiting for you to fall. When the accusations finally land and the court demands justice, you do not face them alone. Your wealth, your influence, your entire meticulously constructed empire is your legal shield. You hire the best lawyers, men whose eloquence is as sharp as a sword and whose morality is as fluid as a river. You use your money to buy the silence of witnesses, to procure false testimonies, to manipulate the very foundations of justice. The law, you discover, is not a sacred text. It is a puppet, and you, with your strings of gold and power, are its master. You may be guilty, you may be innocent, but in this court, the only thing that matters is the appearance of righteousness, and you, with your pockets full of gold, are the master of appearances. The murder is not the end of your story.
It is a new beginning. It is a terrifying rite of passage, a final exam in the brutal syllabus of this court. You must use the incident to consolidate your power, to show the world that you are not a victim, but a survivor. You stand tall, your head held high, a man who has looked into the face of death and walked away victorious. But as you look at the face of Robert Carr, a man who survived the poisoning scandal but lost the king's love, you see a terrifying prophecy. He escaped prison, but he was condemned to a life of loneliness, of oblivion. His victory was a hollow one. The price of involving yourself in a murder is not just imprisonment, but the loss of everything that gave your life meaning. You have to ask yourself, as you stare into the lonely mirror of your own ambition, if you are truly willing to pay that price.
The air in the palace, once your personal theater, is now filled with the unsettling scent of a coming winter. You have survived the Frenchman, navigated the treacherous seas of murder and intrigue, and built an empire of power and wealth. You are a legend, a myth made real, but even myths have an expiration date. You stand on the precipice of a new and final battle. It is not against a rival, but against time itself. You see it in the king's eyes, a flicker of something new, something that looks a lot like a wondering gaze. A younger face has appeared, a fresh canvas for the king's artistic affection. And he is a blank page, an unwritten story. You, a gilded novel with all its pages dog-eared and read, are now a history book in a world that craves the future. Your greatest fear is not death, but obsolescence, becoming a forgotten ghost in a gallery of portraits. This is the last lesson, the most brutal truth of this court. Love is not a feeling. It is a full-time, soul-crushing job. You must become a sorcerer of novelty, a human kaleidoscope whose every turn reveals a new and fascinating color. You can't just change your clothes, you have to change your very essence. You suddenly become obsessed with ancient manuscripts, poring over them in the library, though you can't read a single page, just so you can casually mention them to the king. You learn to play a strange folk instrument, even if every note sounds like a dying cat, simply because the king mentioned a newfound interest in its exotic melodies. This constant, exhausting reinvention is your lifeblood. Every night, after the performance is over and the last courtier has gone, you stand before the mirror, looking into your own sunken eyes, asking yourself, what do I have left to sell? The feeling is like a dull knife slowly chipping away at your very soul, an endless, terrifying question with no answer. You are a walking, breathing work of art, but you are also your own most vicious critic. And then you see him, the new face, the new ghost in the machine. You accidentally catch his eye across a crowded ballroom. He doesn't sneer, doesn't challenge you. He offers a too innocent smile, a subtle, cocky smirk that sends a shiver down your spine. He knows who you are, and he knows what you will soon become, a footnote. Sometimes, when the king is deep in conversation with you, the new favorite will casually walk past, his young, humorous voice just loud enough to grab the king's attention, causing your story to falter, a beat of silence that feels like an eternity. The threat is not in his actions, it's in his potential. This is no longer a game, this is a hunt, and you are the fattest, most coveted prey.
You must become the keeper of the king's memories, the historian of his heart. You tell him stories, not of your own making, but of your shared past, of a world that only the two of you have ever inhabited. You recount the first night he allowed you into his private chambers, the pitter-patter of rain on the window pane, and his secret confession of loneliness. You remind him of the time you were lost in the woods, and you remembered how to find your way back by a star you remembered from childhood. As you tell these stories, you search his eyes for a flicker of nostalgia, a shared memory of a world you both once held dear. Sometimes there is a glimmer of a smile, but sometimes there is just a weary nod, a sign that the story and the man who told it have both faded into the dusty annals of a forgotten past. This, you realize with a cold horror, is a much harder battle than any you have fought before. The king's jealousy, a weapon you have so masterfully wielded, is not a fire to be lit once and left to burn. It is a pilot light that you must constantly, subtly feed. You tell him, with a perfectly calibrated blend of affection and casualness, about a new lord who stares at you a little too long, a diplomat who compliments your wit with a flattery so thick it feels like a physical thing. This is not just about making him angry. You are making him afraid of losing you. His jealousy is a free security system, a fire that operates without a single instruction, pulling you closer to him with every word. This is not just a game, it is a science. And you, its cold, calculating genius, are using his insecurities to build an unbreakable bond. Power in this court is a strange and beautiful paradox. To have it, you must learn to give it away. You must become a master of the graceful retreat, the strategic surrender. Let him make the grand decisions. Let him feel that his word is law, and you are merely his loyal subject. He is a king, and he wants to be reminded of that every day, not just with a crown, but with your deference, your respect, your quiet, unquestioning submission to his will. You are not a puppet master pulling the strings. You are a partner, a companion, a silent collaborator in his theatrical reign. This is not just manipulation. This is the delicate dance of power, and you, its most graceful dancer, are making him feel as though he is leading. The king's diplomatic relations are not just about treaties and trade routes. They are a source of secrets, a treasure trove of information that can be your greatest asset. You must become a spy in his own court, a silent confidant in his most intimate conversations. You listen, you observe, you become the only one he trusts to share the whispers of foreign courts, the petty squabbles of noble houses. You are not just his lover, you are his right-hand man, his most trusted advisor, the only one he can turn to when the world feels like it is falling apart. This is not just about power, it is about becoming indispensable.
The king's greatest fear is not his enemies, it is his own mortality, the grim specter of assassination that haunts his every step. You must become a sorcerer of empathy, a master of a vulnerability that is a performance as much as a feeling. You listen to his fears, his paranoid fantasies, not with the cold, cynical eye of a politician, but with the warm, reassuring gaze of a loving friend.
You become the only one he trusts with his fears, the only one he can turn to in his darkest moments. You are not just his favorite, you are his confessor, his psychiatrist, the only anchor in his storm-tossed world. This is not just empathy, it is a weapon. And you, its most devoted practitioner, are using his greatest fear to secure his greatest love. To be remembered is not enough. You must be a walking, breathing masterpiece, a perfect portrait of confidence and power. Your clothes are not just clothes, they are a declaration. Your smile is not just a smile, it is a weapon. You must always appear radiant, unflappable, the most perfect man in a court of imperfect men. You are a work of art, a living legend that the king can show off to the world. You are not just a man, you are an idea. And in this court, ideas are more powerful than any army, more beautiful than any crown. Flattery, you learn, is not a simple art. It is a complex science, a psychological alchemy that turns empty words into gold. You do not tell him what he wants to hear. You tell him what he needs to believe. You praise his intelligence, his wit, his glorious reign, but you do it with a sincerity that feels terrifyingly real. You are not just a sycophant. You are a mirror, a reflection of the magnificent man he desperately wants to be. Your words are not just compliments. They are a form of magic, a love potion that makes him feel more powerful, more beautiful, more complete. And finally, you must master the art of emotional blackmail, a final, ruthless tool in your arsenal. You must find a moment, a public moment, where you accidentally allow a younger courtier to insult you. Then you retreat to a quiet corner, your head in your hands, your shoulders trembling with a grief that feels as real as it is fake. You allow a few accidental sobs to escape your lips, just loud enough for the king to hear. You say nothing, offer no explanation. Simply let him see your raw, beautiful vulnerability. You watch as a primal protective instinct rises in his eyes, a feeling so ancient and so powerful it could topple empires. He will come to you, not with a question, but with a hug, a promise, a furious command to punish the man who dared to hurt you. Your tears are not a sign of weakness, they are a weapon. Your vulnerability is not a flaw, it is a key to his heart. And you, a master actor in a world of pretenders, are using his protective instincts to secure your place in his world. You realize with a cold, terrifying clarity that you cannot stop. Your life is not a journey, it is a treadmill. You must always be better, always be smarter, always be more captivating than the young, ambitious man waiting in the wings. To stop is to lose, and in this court, losing everything means not just the loss of power and wealth, but the loss of your very identity. You are a king of your own making, but your throne is built on a foundation of shifting sand, and every day you have to fight to keep it from crumbling. Are you have to ask yourself, willing to spend your entire life on a battlefield of love, a soldier in an endless, unwinnable war?
The air in the king's bedchamber is thick with the scent of lilies and regret, a suffocating perfume that feels like the end of the world. You are not a lover anymore. You are a mourner, a witness to the slow, agonizing departure of the man who gave you everything. Every shallow breath he takes is a beat of a funeral drum, a countdown to the moment your magnificent gilded life will turn to ash. You look at his frail, ashen face, and you no longer see the powerful monarch who saw a kingdom in your eyes. You see a ghost, a dying star whose light is fading, leaving you in a vacuum of cold, terrifying darkness. The entire court, a gallery of vultures in mourning clothes, is waiting outside the door, not for a prayer, but for a signal. The signal that the king is dead and the hunt can begin. You, a lion in this jungle for so long, suddenly feel like a gazelle, a delicious, wounded prey. This is not grief. It is an exorcism, a brutal, ritualistic cleansing of everything he once loved. You watched a dynasty die, not in a great battle, but in the slow, tragic surrender of an old man's body. The sickness had been a gradual process, an erosion of the magnificent King James you knew. The sharp wit gave way to a weary silence, the grand theatricality to the quiet sighs of a man waiting for his final curtain call. The court had noticed, of course. Your jokes, once met with a chorus of laughter, now fell into a pit of polite, nervous coughs. Your extravagant parties, once a declaration of your glorious power, were now met with the tired eyes of nobles, saving their energy for the new world. It was a terrifying, beautiful spectacle of an old sun being eclipsed by a cold, gray moon, and you, its brightest star, were about to be plunged into permanent shadow. You had not just lost a king, you had lost your very reason for being, a purpose as sacred and essential as a saint's devotion. And now there is a new king, a new master of your destiny, and he is a man forged in the fires of a different God. Prince Charles, a walking, breathing monument to piety and protocol, is the antithesis of his father. He is not a man of grand passions, of whispers and secrets, but a man of law, of order, of a rigid, puritanical faith. He looks at you not as a magnificent creation of his father's love, but as a walking, breathing symbol of everything he despises. You are a stain on the new regime, a living testament to a frivolous, immoral past that he, with his cold, unblinking eyes, intends to scrub clean. Your charm, your wit, your entire arsenal of theatrical seduction is as useless to this man as a paper umbrella in a hurricane. You are an artifact from a different era, a gaudy, magnificent antique in a world that craves the future, and you, with your gilded past, are about to be put out for the trash. The moment his father took his last breath, the hounds were unleashed. The nobles you had mocked, the ambitious courtiers you had outbid at auction, the families you had quietly humiliated, they are all coming for you, a tidal wave of vengeance that you can no longer outrun. They don't want your land or your money, they want your soul. They will use every law you bent, every rumor you started, every secret you ever told to dismantle your reputation and your life. A trumped-up charge of embezzlement will suddenly appear. A false witness will remember your connection to the Overbury murder. It's a revenge tour, a brutal public exorcism of your power, and you are the main act, the star of your own magnificent televised downfall. This is not justice. It is a ritualistic burning of a witch, and you, with your charming, seductive magic, are the witch. The secrets you so carefully guarded, the private world you shared with the king, are no longer yours to keep. The letters you wrote, the whispers you shared, the intimate moments you thought were just for you two, they are all coming to light. A former servant you trusted will find a letter you wrote to the king, a letter filled with a childish, romantic language that now sounds pathetic and manipulative. The court, once a fortress of your influence, is now a public forum for your disgrace, and you realize that your entire life was a performance, and the truth, when it finally comes out, is a weapon more powerful than any you have ever wielded. You are a ship with 1,000 holes, and every secret, every truth, is a torpedo that is about to sink you.
Your marriage, the strategic alliance you so carefully orchestrated, now becomes a liability. Your wife, a woman of cold, calculating ambition, looks at you not with pity, but with a kind of detached, businesslike disappointment. The protection she once offered you, the bulwark of her family's power, is now a door slamming shut in your face. She will leave, taking her name and her power with her. Or worse, she will turn on you, offering a public, sanctimonious condemnation of your life, making her an even more dangerous enemy than the ones you already have. The very shield you built for your protection has now become a sword pointed at your heart, a final bitter lesson in the transactional nature of this court. And then you see him, the new favorite, a young man with a face as quiet and unassuming as a statue. He is everything you are not. Pious, discreet, and respectful. He is not a lover, but a trusted advisor, a spiritual guide for a king who is a Puritan at heart. He never tells a joke, never wears a flamboyant suit, never makes a scene. His rise is a brutal public mirror of your own fall, a silent, unblinking reminder that your time is over and your kind is no longer welcome. You are a dying ember, and he is a roaring fire, a new god in a world that has no use for the old ones. The palace, once your grand stage, is now a cage. You have a choice: stay and fight a losing battle, a pathetic last-ditch attempt to reclaim a power that is gone forever, or retreat into a quiet, forgotten life, the life you have never known. It's a life without the intoxicating drug of power, without the roar of the crowd, without the beautiful, terrible attention of a king. It's a life that feels more foreign than any country you have ever visited, a new continent of the soul that you must navigate without a map. Can you, a man who has lived and breathed the air of power, survive in the vacuum of its absence? Can a lion, a hunter for his whole life, become a lamb and be content? What will history say about you? The bards will not sing of your magnificent parties or your glorious love affair. They will write of a manipulator, a sycophant, a man who used a king's affection for personal gain. Your name will be a cautionary tale, a lesson in the dangers of ambition, a grim bedtime story told to young courtiers with starry eyes. The very monuments you built for your legacy, the schools, the libraries, the grand houses, will become tombstones for your reputation, a constant physical reminder of a man who once had everything and lost it all. You thought you could control your story, but you, in the end, are just another character in a tragedy that has been told 1,000 times before. This is the end of your magnificent, terrible story. You must write your own ending. Do you fade into obscurity, a bitter, broken man, a ghost in your own house?
Or do you find a way to live a new life, a life of quiet dignity, a life that is truly your own? As you look back on your life, on the victories and the defeats, on the triumphs and the betrayals, you must ask yourself the final, most important question. You won the game, you conquered the court, you had the love of a king. But did you find happiness? Was any of it real? This is the last, most bitter pill to swallow, the final, most crushing truth of a life spent in the pursuit of power. The price of victory, you realize, is not just the fear of loss, but the quiet, eternal ache of a heart you never learned to love. And so the final curtain falls on our gilded journey through the court of King James I. Thank you for walking this treacherous path with me, for every whisper and every intrigue. Your support, every like, every comment, every subscription, is the grandest applause for the lives we've just witnessed. If you enjoyed our story, please leave your mark upon this court. Until our next adventure, farewell.